All right, so we're having another discussion of the Desiderata Extinctionati, and today is August 8th, 2021. And since it's an open discussion, I'll start off with we have an upcoming meeting with Jordy Aitken on Tuesday. Um, just since it's our first meeting with him, should we make it public and recorded? Jordy didn't make any preference, so I'm sure he's okay if it gets recorded.
I think we should record it and then just see how it goes down, whether we actually publish it. But I mean, it would be nice just to have it for posterity because it might be an
Okay,
important
yeah.
discussion.
And we should
Yeah,
make it public
we
too,
might
right?
get too heavy into detail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we might do heavy into details at this stage. I think we should just be a little bit circumspect about some
Oh,
subjects. So either we might edit it out, or otherwise,
okay.
or just, it'd be nice to have it and we could release it much later for
All right.
historical purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it with Jordy. He's busy. He's going off grid, so it'll be hard to catch him. But we'll do our best. He has an hour with us, and we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Other
Did you see
than
that
that,
bit on in Bright Axiom we talked about to Spencer, which is the I thought it was so funny, the guy getting on a yacht and going in search of the poles of geomagnetic reversal.
oh yeah, yeah,
That was straight out of my book almost. It's so close. But yeah, I think that is going to become a bit of esoteric secret knowledge, I hope.
hmm
Um, you know,
yeah. I mean, we can tie that in. I mean, yeah, this arc can go many places. And hopefully, if we get collaboration from Jeff and the gang, it can just be a continuation of their project. Or I mean, we'll see how it goes.
yeah, that's what I would like to do, is just keep everything they've done and just fold everything together. And so it's it's already such a body of work. It's kind of impenetrable. It's really it's really fascinating.
Right. Yeah. Um, just recently, I was
But
watching that Meow Wolf origin story, and to actually I don't know if you know, but to open, they have a location in Santa Fe, one in Las Vegas, and another in, they just opened up in Denver. But they did need some capital to, like a lot of money. Um, George R. Martin helped fund their, because he's from that area. He lives in New Mexico. At the time, he lived in New Mexico, and he helped fund that location, get it all set up. So I'm just realizing, yeah, the seed money, that's very important in any like art project, an ARG or yeah.
yeah, I think I think those guys suffered a lot from COVID because they had storefronts, so they had those stores, and I think they had to close. So Jeff mentioned from an interview of his, but yeah, I mean, I like bootstrapping things on a shoestring, and it's amazing what you can actually do. But the way I see funding is that, yeah, you need a bit of seed capital, maybe a million or two. But the way it normally works is if you just get going and you just get to a place where you absolutely cannot move until you have funding, then the funding normally just comes. If you have the right people involved and you've got momentum, the money just comes up. It doesn't really work. What most people do is they think first you got to get the money, then you go down Sand Hill Road and you try and get venture capital, and you spend a tremendous amount of effort. The normal way for entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, for example, is then they spend about a year or more, sometimes two, just pounding the pavement, trying to get venture capital and shake the tree and stuff. And then they just hawking an idea and a spreadsheet and stuff. And I always thought that was the wrong idea, and I had much more success just starting. You just start, and then just get as far as you can, and keep on going and building and stuff. And that's what I've done here. Is you just try and get as much as you can together on your own, and just keep on building the thing, and then at some stage people get it, and then they want involvement in the thing. But it's very, very hard to peddle just an abstract idea. So I don't. People see something, then it's they want to get on board. But I kind of reminded of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that's they did that on a shoestring. They just carried on with the project. They carried on writing it, and they carried on just doing all the stuff they could, and not getting funding to do it. And then eventually they had a script, and I think it was George Harrison or somebody, he funded the whole freaking movie. And he said, I just want to see it made. He said, I just want to see the movie. That's what I'm going to put the money in. And so you get to a stage where, basically, maybe with an ARG like this, you'd get somebody that just saying, like, I just want to see the ARG. I just want to see this happen. And so I always kind of feel like the money's secondary, and it's, it comes afterwards.
No, that's a good point. Meow Wolf actually, similar thing happened to them. They didn't go up to George R.R. Martin immediately. They actually did their own projects. A lot of them collaborated together. It's an interesting story. They despised mainstream art. They wanted to create their own art, and they just a group of kids, just collaborated and created their own projects together. They just went from curator. They just sought out a curator who would just, we just need a space and we'll build. And they had a few things before they realized there was a bowling alley that they wanted to create, that Meow Wolf that of now, that's in Santa Fe. And luckily one person knew of George R.R. Martin, and it took him some time it took time to convince George R.R. Martin, but I'm sure they showed him, this is the projects that we did, this is what we're thinking about. So they already had I guess proof that they could create the project, and they had like an ambition. So that kind of brought it together for George R.R. Martin. But even then, there was a point in the movie where George, he said, yeah, they convinced me. I bought the bowling alley, but God help me. So even George had doubts that it can always fall apart, but he had that glimmer of hope. I think that's how all of these. I bet even Monty Python, George Harrison might have thought, this could all go to, this could all collapse, but I'm just gonna give it a chance. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know, but venture capitalists, most venture capitalists, and the guys that are most successful, they actually they work from their gut. So you see all these things like in the UK, the Dragon's Den, and I think in the US it's called Shark Tank and stuff, and all of that is made up. It's not really how venture capital works and how pitches go and stuff. So for starters, you don't have the venture capitalists competing against each other. So you don't have a row of 5 of them where you're actually doing a pitch and then you play each other. You get the chance to play them off against each other and stuff. And so, but I think the average Joe doesn't realize that the business guys, they work on a hunch. And so if you get started, then they can see the magic. They can see often better than the people involved. But yeah, we're in a very interesting time, because as a passion project goes, there are a lot of people that think the same way. That there needs to be change, there needs to be cultural change. That they see that once you've bought the bunker, you know that the pitchforks are coming. You think, what do you do next with all the 100 million you've got over? And a lot of guys, I think, are looking for people to say, who have answers. There's so few people that have answers. You have the guys who are doing the great unplugged, and the guys that are prepping and stuff, but nothing really sexy. And so I think we've got something in the fact is, we complete collapsitarians, but we have a plan. most people in collapse are like, oh, I'm just going to slit my wrists now. I mean, I think it's quite rare I haven't seen anybody that says, collapse is coming in. Fuck, we're going to make it awesome. This is going to be the best collapse anybody's ever seen. That's that kind of spirit, I think, would catch fire. I think a lot of people will like that. So let's move forward cautiously and see how we do. But things are coming together. It's at this stage, I think there would have to be some major reversal. Basically, we'd have to be blindsided by something. So things are, you can normally feel when you're just about to get a critical mass, and I think we're very close. So yeah, I think after the meeting that I have, I think we can move into a stage where we start using kind of celebrity power and the kind of the money that comes with it. But I think I hope we can avoid going out to get money. What I think would work best is if you get artists and particularly rich and famous artists of all flavors. They have the pulling power, but I think it would be good to try and use the current people we've got and the celebrity power, pulling power that they have, and leverage that. And then you bring famous people in, and then involved in the project, not funding it. And then there's a certain class of successful creative that can always bring money in. There's a lot of money just circulating. I mean, there's just tons and tons of it. It's just washing out there. But it's hard to make contact with, so it's best not to even try. You just push forward and then rely on the guys that have taps into it, that you just know the money comes when the time is right. You got your act together, the money comes. People reward success. So yeah, that's always been my philosophy, and it's always paid off. I think we're getting close to where we've got a complementary team of all the right people, and I've got a very clear vision in my mind. But it's kind of a fatal flaw to go ahead with my vision. Is basically I can suggest my vision, but you have to incorporate other people, especially like if Jeff Hull was interested. Those kind of guys, you got to work with what they want to do, and they might see it in a lot more egotistical way, but you just have to compromise, just do things. But it's far more interesting to think of it like a plant or something, where or a tree, and you just say, fly, my pretty. It's much better to give birth to something that then takes on its own life than to have a plan and say, like, this is my master plan and this is what must work. It's far more interesting to just start something and see what it turns into. It's kind of like, you know, having a child or something. You just, the art of child rearing, according to me, is to try and, you know, let them grow into whatever they're going to be, not try and shape them too much. So yeah, you got to feed and water them and love them, but then, you know, they're kind of going to grow into what they're going to grow into. Anyway, exciting times, I must say.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any insights or observations or
Yeah.
questions about any of this?
I was just thinking what you said about the people coming along, you know, it's just like an extension of that saying about when the student is ready, the guru or the teacher will appear, you know, so there's kind of a parallel there. I also think with Jeff, you know, I think he does have a substantial sort of, I think he's got a significant personal agenda. It just, you know, when you look at the end of Bright Axiom, where he's, you know, part of what he was saying was a little bit of a tantrum that it wasn't, everybody wasn't going to play the game the way he wanted it. Yeah, I don't know how big of a part of it that is for him. So, you know, you just sort of reminded me of that, talking about, you know, whether there's any ego invested and, you know, people like that wanting to do their own thing. So probably would have to make some allowance for that, I guess. See, he's
Yeah,
because
so
he's been doing his own thing for a long time.
Yeah, and he's got money, so he can, right? His time's his own, so he can do what he wants. Yeah, but I don't see it as ego. You see, as an artist, you get a kind of a big vision, and then, you know, you want to put that vision together, and it's not something that's like a Chinese menu that people can say, oh, well, we like this part of your vision, this bit sucks, and no, it all fits together in an amazing and seamless thing. It's just you guys don't get it, you know, kind of thing. And so they, you know, it's kind of like a Da Vinci masterpiece. It's like, you can't pick and choose bits of it. It basically, the artist knows that it has to be this way because everything fits together in a Kantian whole kind of thing. Each bit supports the other bit, and you can, you know, it's only the genius artist that knows how it fits together. So then they can insist that the machine has to be built this way, but it's not them trying to express themselves and say, this is me and my passion project, and have a tissy fit because it's not going my way. It's having a tissy fit because people don't see that vision. They don't understand the machine. And so then they make, you know, basic assumptions that are wrong. See, most people, when they do a project, they sketchy. They don't have a complete vision. So if you get a visionary, they have a complete vision, and it all fits together. Now, a lot of people can't understand that. I've had this problem all my life, or in business and stuff, because and for working for other people, because, you know, if I'm tasked with something, I say, okay, this is what you need to do, and everybody goes like, they think that, you know, you're working the same way they are. So you think, oh, you know, Hugh's got some good ideas, but I don't like these ideas and stuff. And you say, no, you might not like those ideas, but you have to have them. Otherwise, this doesn't work. You say, like, well, I can't quite see it. And I say, I know you can't see it, but it would take me 2 lifetimes to explain it to you. So you just got to take it on trust. And they say, oh, this is bullshit. Yeah, nobody understands everything. Nobody knows the future. Is what you hear. And this is what they're talking about is themselves. It's like, you don't know the future. When you assemble anything, it's, you know, it's like a meal. You can, like, you know, hold the gherkins. I'm not so interested in the anchovies, to hold those and stuff. And you say, like, yeah, it's not McDonald's, dude. If you go and to have a master chef, you have to have the whole meal as the chef creates it. You can't say, yeah, well, yeah, but I don't like this. So it's like, well, then you don't understand gourmet cooking. Fuck all at the restaurant. And so that's where the ego is. Is a lot of these entrepreneurs and CEOs and rich guys, they're all fucking just exploding egos, and they don't understand that an artist can come with a complete vision, and they're not being pernickety about this part and that part and everything, because they're egotists and they're saying, I insist that must be in there. They're saying like, no, it's like a chef would say, like, if you don't have this like slight almonds on the side, it'll change the taste of the base dish, and basically the whole your balance will go, the feng shui of the plate will go. You can't pick and choose. So most people don't understand feng shui. They haven't got a clue what somebody like Jeff is doing. So what it means is, if you have somebody like Jeff, you have to give them autonomy and encourage them, and then you just and support them in their vision. So you have to be able to ditch your own agenda, and then and you see, the way to work with them is to have a suggestion that's even better than what they originally had, and then that's legitimate. Then that's like, oh yeah, okay, that's better. But history is filled with these conflicts between kind of vogons that are kind of egotistical and don't understand how the world fits together, and geniuses like Michelangelo, and the idiots, often the moneyed idiots, they think it's all arbitrary and patchwork. So that, like, a famous example is the Agony in the Ecstasy, I think, was the thing about Michelangelo carving the David, and the Pope who commissioned it, Pope Gregory, I can't remember, Gregory the First or something. But anyway, he came into the studio while Michelangelo was carving the David, and he went, "Oh yeah, okay, that's pretty good, but the nose is a bit long. You've got to like chop that off a bit." And Michelangelo knew that it was absolutely perfect, and this guy had some prejudice, like against big noses, or he had a small nose, or whatever the guy's thing was with noses. So he was stuck because the patron had ordered him to destroy the feng shui of his masterpiece. So the way around it is very instructive. What Michelangelo is supposed to have done is said to Pope Gregory, said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. You're a genius. I didn't notice that before, but anyway, impeccable taste. I'll fix it immediately." And apparently Michelangelo picked up a bit of marble, a stray bit of marble, and his tools, climbed to the top of the scaffold out of sight of Gregory, and just chipped away at the marble that he had in his hand, a piece of marble. And then, stepped back and he said, "There you are. I've taken it down a couple of inches. It's perfect now, isn't it?" And Pope Gregory apparently said, yes, that's what it needed. It's perfect. And Michelangelo hadn't even touched it. He didn't lay a tool on it. so he just tricked him, and that is the way to do it. So yeah, but in general, we're in a kind of a dance and a kind of a dialogue with the world, but there's also a dialogue within the group, and so you also have to have the play and the teasing and that to make the group work.
It kind of reminds me of the whole
the real art in all of these things is how to make the dynamic work, and it always comes down to the same thing. So if you have some knowledgeable people without ego, then really great things. If you look at all the great things that happened in history, there are a few key personalities that just didn't have ego, and that's kind of set an example for the rest. And if you look at really disastrous things, bands that break up and stuff, they're all these competing egos, and then that disintegrates very, very fast. So yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else on the?
I don't know. Do you want to change subject a little bit, or I'm going to get in deep here.
Sure. We haven't got any set agenda.
I was hoping to get away with a lightweight discussion, but I don't think it's going to work because
Never works.
Never works. I was thinking about for some reason or other, the question of catharsis came up during the week, and you reposted your video, which went into all that, and yeah, I realized listening to that there was another one of these traps of language. I gotta be quite honest, the word catharsis has never done a single thing for me. I just didn't get it. And then when I got it, in a certain sense, it seemed like a rather abstract and lofty kind of thing that might occur. It didn't seem like an everyday thing. And I had a kind of a leap of consciousness, realizing that it can be quite ordinary. It's just like if you reach a certain point where you're just fed up and pissed off, and everything you look at is just a pile of crap, and the world's going to shit, and you say, "Oh, fuck, I'm through with that." That's your catharsis. But I didn't. It was quite interesting to think of it that way. I never really thought of it that way. Is like, this is not. I suppose I'd fallen for the trap of thinking all of these things, thinking of things like this as lofty spiritual accomplishments instead of something that can occur in your everyday existence. And I suppose that the question was, well, when that happens and you're disconnected and you no longer sort of relate to the ordinary world the way you did, it's a question of feeling sort of a bit. You kind of think, well, now what? Do you get over it after a day or two and go back to the way you were living, or do you make an attempt to hold on to this split? Don't just see it as a liberation, see it for what it is, rather than sort of believing society's tale that this is an aberration and you've got to go back to taking us seriously again. So I don't know. You might want to make a comment at that point.
So yeah, catharsis is really the aftershock of trauma. So if you haven't really felt catharsis, you probably haven't really felt trauma. So it's really the kind of feeling after a rebirth. So it's, kind of, I once was lost and now I'm found, and it's kind of a purgation of the old self and the beginning of the new self. So for people, particularly doomers, they've come through a long journey of deciding that the system isn't what it's supposed to be. It's kind of the Pilgrim's Progress, or Dante's Inferno, or the philosopher's journey, or it's always the hero's journey. It's this long journey that's a personal struggle, a jihad with yourself, and everything that you've been told. So the idea that the whole world is progressive and things will get better tomorrow, and doomers had some doubts about that, and then things build up and eventually they come to a conclusion that this is not going to work. We all fucked. All these people are delusional. I'm in one huge mental asylum, and all these people are fucking basket cases. And the worst of it is the people that are most admired are the most broken basket cases. so somebody's firing all these gifts. So you have these broken basket cases. And then you suddenly realize what they are, and then you realize that the emperor has no clothes. At that stage, you have a profound breakdown, and really, it's the death of your old self. It's the death of your illusions. It's the death of your old world. And once you do that, then you can go through stages of reconciliation and catharsis. But you have to have a traumatic struggle to get there. So like in South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was designed to be cathartic after, all the troubles. And at the end of the trouble, so at the end of the struggle, the catharsis is to purge all of those out of you, so that you can be reborn again, begin a new life. So yeah, it's a rewiring. I mean, I think if you're a neurologist, I think you could go and look at the wiring of their brains, and it's a rewiring, and a lot of it involves grief. So it's grief of death of your old self, your old illusions, and now the whole world. So it's a giant letting go, and that it's often induced with plants and entheogens, things like ayahuasca. They're emetics, and they force you to vomit. Now that's deeply psychological as well as physical. But you see, the ancients and Asclepius really believed that part of getting over your insanity is purging it all out. You get the demon out. So it's a kind of an exorcism. And then part of an exorcism is a good old vomit and purge. But it can be done through ceremonies and things like that. So one of the things I'm thinking about in terms of secret societies and in terms of grades and initiations and stuff, and one of them I think is important. I'm starting to think in terms of borrowing from Mithras and using the Mithraic grades and stuff. There's 7 grades. But the reason, one of the good reasons for that is nobody knows what Mithraism was all about. So it comes completely ideologically free. It basically doesn't have any dogma. That we can guess at some of the things might have involved, but there's no written records. So you kind of have all these murals, these icons, all these tantalizing hints of what it was about. It really is quite easy to interpret. I think from the Torabolium and stuff, you can see it's related to the night sky and the stars and the killing of the bull. So it fits in very nicely with everything that I've been saying, which you take the bull as the alien cortex. So our big enemy is the alien cortex. That's what we're doing war against. And it was traditionally realized that, or represented in the night sky as Taurus. So we are Orion or Perseus or Heraclean, basically the hunter, the headless hunter, and fighting with his head, represented by the bull. And so since shamanic times, the victory over that bull, the slaughter of that bull, then resulted in really purgation and catharsis. And so to get there, you can see the kind of things they did, because if you look at some of the murals in Toraboliums, you can see Mithras slaying the bull. It's always ritualized in the same way, easily to interpret from the zodiac. But there's very often a kista with Asclepius' snake in it. And as soon as you see Asclepius' staff and snake, you know that it's to do with medicine, or the type of medicine that they thought is rebirth. And then, the snakes always tend to represent rebirth. But that kista is part of the Eloisian mysteries, and it's the kista mystica. So kista means cask. We get the word cask from it. So it's very symbolic of a casket. So you can see it arising again out of things like Freemasonry. If you look at the initiation ceremony from Freemasonry, part of it involves being put in a coffin, and that's very, very old tradition, and then that's symbolic of death. And so the Kista Mystica is very easy to understand, because you can piece together from the murals that you can see what's happening. They make you get in the box, it goes back to Set and Horus, the battle that they had, and Set tricking Horus into getting into a box. In other words, killing him, putting him in a coffin. But you're supposed to get into the Kista, I think, with loads of snakes, which is tremendously unnerving experience. Basically, you have to stay damn still in there to sleep with the snakes. But I think then the initiate would be put in that traumatic situation. It's got to be traumatic being put in a basket full of snakes. It's a nightmare for me. I'm an African, we don't like snakes. And so, but out of that trauma, then they would emerge from the basket, and you can see they're actually murals of Perseus, Apollo, and Mithras emerging from a basket, and with the snake. So that symbolizes the birth out of the womb. The basket represents the womb and the coffin, and so that's your rebirth. And then going through that ritual would be cathartic. It's really getting rid of your death anxiety. And the true catharsis is getting rid of death anxiety. And so that's what it's all about. And you see it repeated over and over and over and over again in different guises. But it's so easy, especially in stuff that we're doing, to lean on that stuff, at least in ritual. And I think we should get to that. But we'll develop it as it goes. So Lionel, Ramsey Dukes, he says he's totally on board. So I asked him if he would spend at least a day out of the ones in the meeting, so that we can go over that esoteric stuff, because I think that's one of the missing pieces. That's one of the things where where Faulty's weak on that side, the idea of personal development. But I've discussed it with him, and it's just a blank area. Basically, but I think more and more people realize, like Paul Kingsnorth and stuff like that, is that you need development of the rebel too. You can't just go out in the world and shake it up and do culture jamming and transform the whole society, and just have all the people stay exactly the same, because the society and the system is a reflection of their own psychology. So it has to be the psychology that changes. You can't just sit down on a prayer mat, not in this day and age anyway, and just go through psychological transformation too. So you have to do both. You have to act in the world, and then you have to work on yourself. And so those two together make the whole program. So I think what I'm thinking, discussing, is that the whole ARG would be really recruitment, and it would all funnel into, it would all be a big game with trailheads, all these various ways of entering into the game. And then there would be a threshold, which is an induction into the secret society. So you'd be inducted into something like the Illuminati. Hopefully you're already in the Illuminati. Then part of that, you would be told the real story, the real story of what we're doing. And it's really a narrative of how we're trying to save the world. And the enemy is the centralized, digital, data-centric, alien cortex-orientated, linear thinking Vogons and their machine that's destroying the planet. And us, team human life, organic, analog, the older brain, the larger human creativity, we're against the machine. And that's the broader narrative, and you would be introduced to that in a kind of induction ceremony. And then you would start, being a puppet master and getting people into the game while you carry it on in the next initiation. So in the next degrees in the rank. But yeah, I mean, 7 degrees makes such a lot of sense, and it was always seven grades stuck through lots of things. Eventually you get to Primavera. If you look at the Primavera painting by Botticelli, Marsilio Ficino's school, and that, they had 7 grades. And so it just falls so neatly into that, and the 7 chakra and stuff. So it just becomes such easy narrow. And I hope I can convince any artist types that come in on board that's the way it should be. It's nice to reinvent all these new things, like, and there's some value to it, but I don't think you can get very far developing new things. It's a bit like trying to invent great food combinations. It's like you cannot do it. People have they've discovered all the great food combinations, like cheese and onion or cheese and tomato or something. You cannot find pickles and sardines or pickles and onion. You can't find things in this.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one.
Chefs, you can't find new combinations. So just raid the old ones. It's all about I'll let you go just now. So it's all about just serving up the old dish in a new style. So everybody thinks it's brand new, but you cannot serve up a new dish. And I hope that I can convince people of that.
I suppose the question there is, for people who don't connect well with mythological, who can't make a transfer, can't see the significance of it. I've often read it, not recently, but a long time ago, read some of those ancient stories and they don't speak to me. I don't form a connection, and I know you probably you're going to say something like, well, that doesn't matter because it's not speaking to your alien cortex. It's speaking to your more deeper levels of your brain, which is probably true. But the other side of it is that if you don't feel some kind of significance in those stories, you won't stay with them. You won't. Like, for instance, if you're acting this out, you probably would drop out of it. You wouldn't keep going.
So the approach to those stories is important. They're not fairy tales. They actually are codes. So once you start to decrypt these things, you start then to get all basically all the connections, and you start to get the apophenia. So where those stories come alive is when you say, for example, something like I just did, say like Mithras is actually probably Orion in the night sky. Then you go and research and investigate that theory. As soon as you do that, you get an explosion of rabbit holes. So once you get the tools, just need a little bit of Sanskrit, a little bit of Greek, and basically the internet has made all of this stuff completely easy. Is falling off a log. But once you start unraveling the scheme, you start to see that it's just connected everywhere, that everything echoes with everything else. And so you tend to get very excited and, basically like you're on the trail to finding the deepest secrets of the universe. It tends to be makyo, right? You can go too deep in it. And I think a lot of the time, a lot of these materials, they are our alien cortex. In one sense, they were written by people that did a code for initiates. And they're kind of like route maps to get out of the forest. There's plenty of evidence that just as much of this stuff was written by the dark side to trap people. So the Bible itself is designed to be a quagmire. It's designed to be so impenetrable that if you ever make the pilgrim's journey or the philosopher's journey, it's a tar trap. You can spend your whole life on 1 or 2 passages. You can do what Jung did and look at the book of Job, and analyze the Book of Job and the ethics of it and the intricacy, and basically you can waste your entire life and you're not getting anywhere. You're just dicking around with the Book of Job. And so I think that there are just as many people, but they're representing the alien cortex. And what the alien cortex is doing obfuscation. It's basically squirting ink like a squid, and it's a evasive tactic. So while you're analyzing Job and ethics, and you become a real Pharisee, and you do all this rabbinical stuff, like look at Judaism. All these rabbis argue the hell off these minor points, and where they're not getting anywhere. They're not religious. They don't have any insight. They're not really developed human beings. They're just fucking annoying, pedantic rabbis. And so for the pedantic mind, basically for the alien cortex has set up a trap. And so part of these writings are a trap that's designed to basically just get you in a bramble bush. So it'll take you a lifetime to pick your way out. So they're delaying tactics for you doing the real operation which we're about, and that's crushing the ego in the alien cortex. But it's definitely a delaying tactic. So if you've got to be smart and pick and choose, but think of it like an obstacle course. Can you break the code and not be distracted by all the chaff? It's much more about filtering out information rather than finding information. All of our science and stuff is based, about getting more and more information. But that's not what intelligence is. Scientists are not really very intelligent, and the scientific method is not very intelligent because it doesn't have a method for weeding out chaff. So there's no scientists are not generally taught, and maybe they were in previous eras, but increasingly scientists are not taught how to get in a hypothesis, do the investigation and gather the data, and then filter out the noise. So now scientists just have one criteria for deciding what to do in terms of science, and that's kind of, will it boost my career? So is it profitable? Is it a profitable line of research? Will it be easily funded? Is there, and so it becomes a kind of a fashion show. And so science is dumbing down tremendously from that. But the art here is to do that, is to go through all these things and take the essence out of them, see the traps, see the ones, the signposts, and discriminate between those. And so it's really a kind of an IQ test. Can you? It's kind of like escape the room test. Can you solve the puzzle and escape the room before it gets flooded? And that's kind of where we are as a species. Can you solve the riddle and escape planet Earth before it's doomed?
What I'm thinking about, what I had in mind more was people in Faulty's group who have probably not been exposed to anything like this before, presenting them with something that is a little bit too archaeological. The very, I mean, I know what you said about you probably can't reinvent any new ideas in recipe cooking or something like that. But I was thinking, listening to one of those Michael Mead fables, that maybe you need to bring some of those ancient stories into a more modern context so that people feel, at least superficially, more connected to them. It brings them closer in time. That might sort of overcome because there's a kind of in a way, well, I don't know, I find it's a kind of an awe of these ancients and their incredible accomplishments, because there's a tendency to all these gods doing amazing things and incredible superheroes just accomplishing feats that people don't seem to be capable of anymore, and so they seem to be presenting something that is beyond what an ordinary person could aspire to. I'm just wondering whether that needs bringing down recasting in a more contemporary way, and also being presented in a way that gives a more ordinary person some intimation that that could actually be them. You know, that this is not some unreachable thing, you know.
Yeah, it's that's what I mean by serving up the old dish anew. So Hollywood does it all the time. If you go and look at The Matrix, it's just taken all these hero tropes and just put them in a modern context. And that's what they did with the Latitude Society and the Institute. I mean, if you look at that Kith figure, that idol, it's leaning on so many esoteric traditions from ancient Egypt and, you know, deep psychological things. So it's yeah, it's just a question of raiding the past and updating it. But a knowledgeable scholar of those things should be able to say, oh yeah, I see what you did there. You just stole this and you just used that. And you say, shut the fuck up. These kids think it's all new. So it comes across as brilliant when you read these archetypes. It seems deep and brilliant and insightful. And the reason is that they were developed over a long time. These things are like cooking in the sense that, you know, beef stroganoff didn't just pop out one day. It's been developed over a long time. People have made a lot of mistakes and gradually improved it and stuff. And so these stories and these methods, the symbology and stuff, has also had a long heritage. And so you take that heritage, but just put a new twist on it. And the thing is to recombine things, to, you know, cover things up and reveal them in a new way. And so yeah, it's all these things. That's why you need these artists, because they can make things unexpected. They can make things playful. The art is to get something which is fusty and old and to say, like, yeah, but you never saw it this way, and you never realized it could be funny, and you never saw this bit, blah blah blah, and then it's new and exciting and fascinating, and it's like being in love.
Yeah, you're reminding me of
new aspects.
Yeah, it's like you know, contemporary recasting of opera, and I mean, it's been done, you know, in theatre quite a bit. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but not just so keep it in the same genre. It's, I mean, to a lot of extent, if people like Rowan Atkinson and Blackadder and Monty Python and all these guys, they were taking the old stuff and rehashing it, just completely rehashing it, saying it used to be all serious and very starchy and stuffed shit, and then we taking it and we're going to lampoon it. We're going to take the same things and make them ridiculous. And so it's, you know, it's an art, because you can take a sacred icon and make people laugh at it or something. It's like, well, it's a dangerous game, because you just get it slightly wrong, you've committed a grand sacrilege. But if you do it well and get away with it, you've actually advanced people's thinking. You've made them wake up a little bit. But you see, I put that video up there about the catharsis because it went through a number of things. What I forgot about that video, but it has a lot in it. And what it has is the completeness of those Asclepians. So the like at Epidavros, you see, they had theatre. You see, at Epidavros is the biggest ancient theatre, I think, anyway. It's bigger than the one in Cartagena, and it's enormous, fabulous theatre. And so you're talking about like a football stadium of people watching this play, a Greek tragedy and all this stuff. It's television. Now, it's not like you go to hospital and, oh, they have the television on because, you know, while you get bored in hospital, you can watch Fox News. But that theatre was a purgation. So it was a purgation of the emotions, and they kind of thought of it as an imbalance of the humors, and and having, toxins and miasmas in you. And so laughter and tears were considered the way that you get those out. So it was exercising demons and stuff. And it's all legit. Psychology has dumbed down tremendously since those kind of insights, and barely rediscovering them. So
I was thinking about that.
Art is
no, you just had me thinking about somebody I knew who was experienced unexplained vomiting, and it just went on and on, and there didn't seem to be any medical cause for it. And after a little while, I was thinking about it, because I noticed that this person had had an enormous amount of bad stuff go on, like, really oppressive, and gone bankrupt and lost everything and all the rest of it, and been very put upon by other people. And after a while, I thought that the vomiting was actually the system was just trying to get rid of all that, vomit up all those rotten experiences, and the whole thing was actually symbolic. That was this physical doing physically what is which I suppose has got to be done psychologically, but the body was the more basic level, was acting it all out. Was in a way, was leading the way and saying, look, I'm not going to wait for you to get rid of this. I'm just going to throw it up now and get it out.
Can I add to this, Gary? You said basic level. I think we've turned things the wrong way. The body is the essential level. The body is never wrong. And then the psychological, the mental, okay, that's just fabrication. But the basis of everything is physical. And if it's happened, it's because the body wants to, as you say, but it is that to take in. That is the way to look at it, to start with what is the body is doing. And the rest, well, we can elaborate if we like, but it's doing something at this, it's working its way out. And trust your body.
Yeah. Well, that's an important point, because I suppose it's what we tend to do, is get it all upside down, So it's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're given an inordinate, because we live in the alien cortex's world, we give an inordinate amount of attention and status to all our little thoughts, and especially in liberal democracy, because if you have nothing bigger than yourself, so if you're a humanist and the most important thing is the individual, then it stands to reason that all the thoughts the individual has and the feelings the individual has is the only thing that matters. And so then, but it's exactly as Sophie says, it's the important stuff is below all that. So you can forget all the stuff on the surface of your thinking process. If you take nausea, for example, the nausea is often a reaction to poisoning. So if you have nausea, your body thinks it's been poisoned. Now, the cue that it gets that it's been poisoned is circling thoughts. So if you have a neurotoxin, you will get overstimulated in the brain. You will get a feeling of giddiness, disorientation, with racing thoughts and disturbing thoughts, and the same stuff you go through ayahuasca. What they're doing with ayahuasca is they're poisoning you. Now, that gives you all these strange hallucinations and things like that, and upsets your balance. Now, what your body has evolved to say, oh, I know what's going on here. I've eaten something that's poisoned me. And so it tries to purge it out. And so when you get a psychosomatic illness, you get that, vomit reaction, because your body is interpreting all the philosophy and the thoughts going on in people's heads as a very basic emergency, and it's physiological emergency, basically poison response.
Yeah, it's a very literal thing that, you know, that we tend to sort of overthink things, but the body is acting in a very direct, literal way. It's just like, you know, this has got to be gotten rid of, and the body knows physical stuff, not abstract stuff. Sorry, I'll let you go on.
Yeah, but the thing is, once you realize that, imagine what a tool you have. What you've just exposed in your toolbox is then you can get a, you know, psychology for 100 years has been a complete waste of time. It hasn't done
So
tell people get.
So the way it should be looked at is that you act this out, and then that goes. That affects your mind. In other words, you might go through a certain ritual process of purgation, and then that then reflects back into your mind. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Do you think you need to actually tell people that, or just is it better just that they don't know that?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All you're telling is the alien cortex. That's what I've been. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter a damn what you tell them. That's what I was saying about the placebo effect. Is what they discovered is your alien cortex isn't involved in the placebo effect. So you can tell it anything. You can tell it it's a placebo. You can lie, whatever. It's irrelevant. And it's like, oh, shock, horror. But I'm an individual. I make rational decisions. I have free will. And it's like horseshit. That's just your alien cortex confabulating bullshit. It's absolutely scientific. It's just we didn't want to hear it because it didn't fit into our Western democratic liberal model, our idolization of the individual. But Gazzaniga and Sperry showed conclusively in split brain experiments that your left brain is just talking bullshit. It just confabulates stories. That's its job virtually, is like, come up with a story that puts me in supremacy. And that's what it does. And that's what liberal democracy is. What story puts the alien cortex in supremacy in our society? Well, it's that we're individuals and we have identity and free will and what we think is important and stuff. And it's like, all this is complete drivel. Doesn't matter a bit. But what you see, once you realize that, and you realize the placebo effect has nothing to do with what you tell people and logos and words and stuff like that, well, you can go in and say, well, okay, let's talk to the body. What happens to the body if you give all of these signals that some dramatic events happen? What happens if you take it back to the womb? There are all these things, these hormones and pheromones and smells and stuff, and your body was cued to see those. So you can take somebody through a burning through fire experience. If you put people in a kista with snakes, there's a lot more than going on about saying, oh, how does it work? Your alien cortex works, and say you'll never fathom it out. But what they're doing is that they're using smoke and herbs and stuff like that, and they worked out through trial and error and a long thousands and thousands of years of experimentation is how to induce those, how to push those buttons much lower than the alien cortex. And so there's benefit to going through some kind of experience like that, that you evolved to recognize, like being eaten by a lion. So now think in terms of today, where we dumbed down so badly, we've lost all this knowledge. But look at the tools we've got. Once you know that being mauled by a lion or eaten by a beast or something like, like the Jonah tale, being eaten by a large beast is something which we evolved to be terrified of. Now that's very, very useful, especially in terms of rebirth and staging somebody's death, is that you can stage now using stagecraft and virtual reality and 3D and all of these stuff, the fantastic, marvelous tools that nobody has the smarts to use. You can give people the experience of saying being eaten by a lion. Now that is tremendously powerful tool. But at the moment, we just use it for Disney to make money and stuff like that. You can go to Disneyland and they'll take you on a little experience, and it's apropos of nothing. You see, Disney himself realized this, but he after Disney died, it just became a corporation, just an empty shell. Then they're just giving people, you know, individuals, Western Democrats, they're just giving you experiences. We're selling you Imagineering. And they forgot what that was supposed to do. So now they say, "Ooh, this will be cool. We'll do Pirates of the Caribbean." And you say, why? Tell me the psychology. How do people come out of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride transform? What have you done? What's the circuits that you changed? What have you done in their body? Well, guys in Disney don't know. They're just some like Taiwanese engineers that think, you know, they're told that, you know, if you have characters with appeal and big eyes, it appeals to people's mammalian brain. But they can't do much societal change because it's just like, hey, we give you a little experience, don't know what the fuck it's about, but anyway, pay us money. And Disney's a big corporation. So capitalism ruined the Schlepping in a big sense. But, you know, all of that stuff is available to us. It's been democratized. And now you can make videos, you can make movies for dirt cheap. It's no longer the preserve of the elites. Now we can make fabulous virtual reality experiences. You can do it on the cheap. But what people have lost is the knowledge. So, but we have the knowledge. Now if we get together all the technicians, it's fucking dynamite. I cannot express to you how far this can go. It's the tool and the knowledge to use it that we're gradually getting together here. So it's big. It's big. I would be seriously upset if it all falls down in a heap.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because we have entered into this as a real life experience anyway. I mean, this is, in a way, a certain value of the doomer perspective is focusing on the death of the planet, of the ecology and everything unfolding right here. But I don't know what's happening. Are people just raising their threshold of horror as it's because it's not coming on quickly enough to trip them off, you know, or it's too abstract because they're not getting flooded here, they're getting flooded over there, or the hurricanes over there, or something like that. I'm just trying to. I'm just wondering whether you know. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, finish.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, my thought is only half hatched. But you know, when you're talking about recreating in virtual reality, getting eaten by a lion or something, but you know, I mean, we've got this. We've got all these horrors unfolding on the planet at the moment. There's still a disconnect, which seems rather shocking, that it could be maintained. That this hasn't come close enough to a lot of people, and they're not sufficiently shocked yet. You know what I mean?
Doomers strike me as being stuck. So they kind of been stuck in the birthing process. So they need a midwife to come in, and they basically need an epidural to get them through the birth. So they kind of got stuck in the birth canal. All the traumas and stuff on the news, they just really anxiety. They the backgrounds. So nobody sees all of this stuff. It's all, you know, wars and rumors of wars. It's distant rumblings that make people feel on edge, so they get eco-anxiety, and they feel that they can't stick with the prevailing narrative because it's jarring to see all these things on the news and then to be given this progressive message. So the doomers are depressed and stuck in this hopelessness, but most people and it's because basically they're in a double bind. They've been given two messages. They've been given the message of this is progress, engineering, humans. It's the human story that is, and the transhumanist story that human ingenuity can do anything. We're on our way to becoming a deity. Soon people will live forever. We'll be uploaded to silicon. We'll go on forever. And we're going to Mars. And Elon Musk is a hero and not a dipshit. And then on the other hand, it conflicts with the message that you're hearing that the Arctic is melting. You're hearing that this green stuff is just bullshit. It's like, it's just magical thinking of the worst kind. And so people can see that it's not measuring up. What the IPCC is telling us is happening 70 years in advance. All these scientists that we all relied on and thought were geniuses and stuff are now turning out to have really clay feet and not really understanding their jobs. So, all of this message is becoming that people are realizing one by one that, oh shit, this is serious stuff. This plane is going to crash. So they're having the Flight 93 moment where they realize, oh my fuck, we are going into the ground or a building, or this is going to be as bad as it gets. And so, half the people are, no, the blah, 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 we're all off to the stars. And so that cognitive dissonance then is the start of the journey. Now, there are very few gurus and shamans and people that can tell them how to go through the rest of the journey. So there are very few people that say, out of this cognitive dissonance, this is the way forward. So you can go and join a cult like the Christian cult and get a priest, and they'll say, well, the answer is Jesus. And you can do Paul Kingsnorth, and you can go and bury your head in Orthodox religion. But you're not out of the woods, because you know that it's bullshit. You know that this Christian thing is a cultural artifact. You know that your imaginary friend in the sky is a creation of man, and man is not created from this higher power. You know absolutely that this is bullshit. So you know you're hiding under the covers, and it doesn't really work. There are very few people that say, this is a positive thing. Now, the way through it is your worst nightmare. Nightmare psychotic is everybody feels they're going nuts. They all feel, I can't take it anymore. I'm going mad. And you're saying, like, yes, you are, but it's good. It's like the real insanity is carrying on the way you were. So that's the rebirth, is like, changing the world and reorienting it. So the alien cortex its primary thing is substitution and an inversion. So sure, people feel disorientated because they're going through this big flip. See, part of the thing about the flippening and stuff is I'm riffing on the personal journey as well, just putting it into myth in the real world. But the big flip is the big flip from being, saying that you are on the inside. You see, if you're a liberal, you say, I'm an individual, I have a body, I have an identity, it's all about me, I look at my face in the mirror, I believe I'm my body and stuff.
Can I interrupt you, Mum?
The answers would be, oh yeah, go.
Yeah, when you talk, that's an example where I was talking about the ancient mythology earlier, and saying, I found it difficult stuff to connect with. And here you are saying now that your flippening hypothesis is a parallel to what has to occur in the individual. No, I'll just be perfectly honest and say that never occurred to me at all. And so you've sort of developed this, if you like, parable or mythology story about the flippening. And I that was my question earlier, was if you're a completely clueless idiot like me and you didn't get that point, that this was also a story about the individual. Is it, what's happening to your story when I hear it? Does it disappear inside of me and do nothing, or does it disappear inside of me and start to work away and I don't know about it? Just
Hopefully, if I do my job right, it'll work away under the covers, because I'm doing drop by drop all these subliminal suggestions. So I'm doing all this auto suggestion, and then the way it should work is that at some stage you put two and two together and go, oh my God, everything Hugh says actually isn't bullshit. It all fits together. And what, you know, so like, oh, I get it now. The metaphor was real, and the real was a metaphor, and everything like that. So the end of the planet is like, no, that's the end of your ego. You see, you had it all completely inverted, and I mean, it's hard to grasp, especially from our culture, how completely inverted it is. So what I was saying was that the liberal idea is that the answer's within you, and I'm here and me, and then you flip that around and you say, no, the individual doesn't matter. It's I am this universe. I'm this whole planet. So your ego suddenly gets expanded to a point of meaninglessness. But you suddenly identify with the outside. Say, yeah, I'm this little body, but I just, I'm so okay. When you're a transhumanist, you say, we'll take the human individual and we'll become a god. You say, like, how? The human individual is compartmentalized. How? You'd be a god in a box. It makes no sense. It's a god. But you see, say, well, say then, but we gave up on the idea that there was a big god outside. And what is that big god? Well, no one really knows, but it's obviously the fucking universe that we came from. Basically, I'm made out of fucking carbon that was manufactured in stars. And, basically every one of this, carbon, hydrogen, iron, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And then, those things came together out of this universe to make me. But I don't really exist. All the Chinops stuff exists, the nitrogen. And so all those elements of the periodic table, they exist. But I don't. It's just I have to come into this body and get eyes and stuff like that so that all these elements on the periodic table can see themselves and enjoy themselves. But it's the elements on the periodic table, it's the stuff out there, it's the ecosystem, it's the bigger universe that is becoming us to enjoy itself. And you see, what the transhumanists have got it exactly upside down. They're saying we are a closed universe in ourselves, and then we materialize that universe as the conquering, we envelop the entire universe. We conquer it. We go to the stars. We own the galaxy. It's this upside down narrative. It's like, no, we are the galaxy. We came into this body so we can actually see ourselves. See? So it's an amazing thing because the eye cannot really see itself. But the universe can. The universe can create an eye like we've got here and look at itself, experience itself, and be conscious of itself. And that's the way it enjoys itself. But you see, everybody identifies with me in this big world. And the big flippening, the realization is that, no, this is temporary compartmentalized, and it's just some of the rules of the game. The internal rules of the game says, look, you can't have an eye as big as the Milky Way galaxy or Andromeda or something like that, because a lens doesn't work on that scale. The forces of gravity would collapse it. It's not possible. But it's possible to have an eye on this scale. And so that's the scale it appears. And that's the scale we observe the Milky Way galaxy and Andromeda. But when Andromeda wants to see itself, it makes an eye, this eye. And you look back at itself through a telescope. And that's how the universe enjoys itself. But you see how upside down liberal democracy is? It's exactly inverted. And it makes an idol. It puts intermediaries in front of the universe. Well, so it's saying like, no, I'm not even going to let you see the universe. Now you have to see it through a digital interface. You're kept out of it. You have to be kept in a city. And so it's substituting these barriers. And the reason why LA Cortex is substituting these barriers is if you know the truth that it's an imposter, it's trying to pretend it is God. It's trying to pretend it is the universe. And when it gets found out, it's gone. It's like, you know, you can step down from your throne now, alien cortex. I've figured out the secret. It's I'm part of nature. It's basically this nature observes itself and eats itself and excretes itself. Basically, that's the way it experiences itself. And I am that. I'm not this fucking voter with a fucking Pierre Cardin. So Louis Vuitton just became the most richest guy I read today. Why? He's selling ego. He's selling lifestyle brands. He's selling basically this mask of identity. He's saying, I can make you the person you want to be. So he's perpetuating the fraud. The richest man in the world has made his money about this narcissistic fraud. So, I mean, how more opportune can you get than saying that if you want to become the richest guy in the world, sell people lies about themselves? That's the whole liberal democratic and progressive scheme.
So, you know, in finding the sort of celestial boundaries that we perceive, we're only actually looking at the boundary of our mind, I guess. The other thing is too, you know, I mean, just thinking about, you know, the search for life on other planets, and again, where we've got it upside down. I mean, we've already found it. You know, we're just looking out there instead of in here. Everything is turned around the wrong way. The life we're looking for is just been with us the whole time. So, you know, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's been said so many times that people can't hear it. So again, you've got to, you know, T.S. Eliot. It's what did T.S. Eliot say? The secret is to make the journey and return to the place where we started, but see it for the first time. It's all of that. I mean, it's like you hear it over and over again. It's like, what was going to the moon about? Going to the moon was Apollo 8, the Earthrise picture. Stepping on the moon was a fuck up. If we actually got anything out of the Apollo program, we should have stopped at Apollo 8. When Apollo 8 landed, then we should have said, my God, that's why we went to the moon. So we could look back at Earth and take a picture of Earthrise. The fact that we just shelved that, put it in a cubbyhole, and then went and tromped around on this fucking piece of ash, and then everybody goes and says, but it was such a great thing going to the moon. No, it wasn't. It was fucking stupid. Neil Armstrong is a stupid cunt. He missed Apollo 8. That was what the whole thing was. It was discovering Earth. But they missed it, like complete doodle twats, and went and tromped about on the moon, and now forever have to make it into something it's not. They have to aggrandize going to the moon and say, well, what did we get out of it? Fuck all. We got Tang and Velcro. It was stupid. It was dumb, fuck stupid. We might as well have gone and got out on a fucking coal, you know, on a pile of coal. The moon is a dead fucking dusty rock. There's nothing to the moon. It's a cinder. And then we make this big thing. It's like, we went to the cinder next door. Yeah, and you fucking missed Earthrise on Apollo 8. You forgot that the blue thing is the thing. You know, the reason to have the Apollo program is to see the blue thing for the first time, not to go to the grey thing, you fucking stupid fucking dipshits. Anyway, that's my rant.
I'm just trying to think well, I shouldn't be trying to think some more. But, you know, considering the point of catharsis is I don't know. I mean, find personally sometimes I'm still trying to cling to my ordinary life, even though it's just obviously in tatters and it's not worth bothering with anymore. And you know, you think, oh, okay, this has only got to get 1 degree worse, and I'm just not even going to make the effort anymore. In other words, there will be a complete break with even trying to take it remotely seriously. And, you know, I think in terms of, you know, one more a shift in the climate or more problems, social problems arising out of the virus and all this kind of thing. And there's you can't, I don't know, I must be living under the illusion that I'll reach a point where I find a line in the sand and then just say, okay, I'm not going to bother crossing that. I'm just going to give up now. And that's what my mind is telling me is the point of catharsis. But I don't think it will happen that way.
You see
yeah, but I'm wondering whether it will happen that way. What I'm thinking is that I'm thinking it and saying, well, I'm positing this line I'm going to get to tomorrow when it gets really bad. But I'm wondering whether the catharsis just won't come that way. That it will just be something. There will just be a shift inside, and you'll just suddenly, you won't even think of it. You'll just have a different perspective. You won't be saying, oh, fuck it, all right, I just give up. You probably won't even say anything. You will give up, but there probably won't be any commentary about it. You'll just be living differently.
No, I think you would. You see, this is. Oh, no. So the kind of enlightenment experience that I'm really trying to induce in you is total. So it's everything is in agreement. So you see, people in their psychology are all cross purposes. So they have all these modules that are partial and contradictory, but after this particular realization experience, everything's aligned. It becomes like a huge joke. You laugh and cry. Everything suddenly makes sense, and everything's in agreement. So that point you get to by giving up, totally giving up. So you get driven to a point. It's really Neo's jump in the Matrix, where he just basically throws himself off a cliff. Now, to get to that throw yourself off a cliff moment, unfortunately, people are not given the training, so they go and throw themselves off a real bridge or a real cliff, or they really blow their brains out. If they're given the training, you get to the point where you're gonna jump off the bridge. You say, like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I can't take this machine world, this society, this fucking apocalypse. I want fucking out. And then you get to the point where you would jump off a bridge, except for you suddenly remember Desiderata number 8, that you're not allowed to jump off the bridge. You're not allowed to do yourself any bodily harm. So that just becomes a tiny little voice in your head that says, okay, well then what I do? Well, you do fuck all. From that point on, you give up on your own problems and make them everybody else's. You see, people get to a point where they go, look, I've got debts, I've got money wise, everything is fucking against me and stuff. And you say, like, I don't give a shit if I live on the street anymore. I have no ambitions. I don't care whether people think I'm a homeless bum, or I just don't give a fuck anymore. And you say, like, okay, so if I owe you money, well, that's your fucking problem. I can't pay. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about your world, your problems. And so I'm just going to go and sit on a park bench and fuck you. I don't care if I get thrown in prison or mental institution. It's like, I'm not. Oh. See, an odd thing happens. You see, I don't want to speak too much about what happened, because otherwise
you
might go into it under false pretenses because you want a good outcome.
I can see this happening, but I think it comes back to this sort of spiritual discussion about, and you've said it too, that awakening, a lot of people say it, your awakening is not a gradual, it's going to happen all at once. And yet as you're talking there, I see that happening in my life already, where, I've become aware of it in the past few months, where what you were just saying, for instance, with just throwing things back at other people and making it their problem instead of trying to take it on yourself one more time and manage it and do something with it, and just completely abandoning the fucking thing and leaving it for them to pick up if they want to waste their fucking time on it, and so I can see all these cracks appearing, but when I look at that,
May
Go
I add
on. Yeah,
something
yeah,
more
go
to
on.
say, because it brought to my mind that I've been this week in contact with Paul Kingsnorth, and I've posted a few of his things on Reddit, and it brought me back to get in contact with Mark Boyd. Both of them gave up different ways, but Mark went completely off grid and just lived by without clocks and phones and electricity. And I think he's actually he's going a way that is quite exemplary. I really hope that we can talk to him. But I've seen in Paul, because I've read again what he's written and I've listened to his things. He went to that point, but then suddenly he made a U-turn in a way that he went back to organized religion. And you see, it's a trap too, because I think that suddenly you say, oh yeah, but God, and I you know, that is a thing. I got really shocked this week about that. Really shocked, even though I'd like us to talk to him because he's a brilliant guy. You know?
So well, maybe we can do him some good by talking about this point. The point.
I think
See,
that's what Mike is saying
that
about
turning back
in a frame
is
in his comments. You see, suddenly is it this what you call alien cortex? But suddenly it's so huge, it's so beautiful, it's so letting go that suddenly I have to go back to a frame. I have to get this into an organized thing. Do you know what I mean?
But was he going back to religion in that way? I don't know anything about this fellow. I'm just wondering because
a few months ago he was totally atheist, and a few months ago he joined the Romanian Orthodox Church in Ireland and just got christened, baptized.
Yeah, but I mean, well, the point I'm trying to make is this: is that when I was growing up and getting religion stuffed into my and then just left it because it didn't mean anything to me, and then went on the more Eastern spiritual journey. Years later, I was able to come back to the religion and see the spiritual things sort of buried in it and twisted up and confused and all the rest of it. But you could see the essence of something in there. And so in a certain sense, I could return to the religion and see something worthwhile in it. I'm just wondering if he's done it that way, whether he's gone back to the religion in a religious way or whether he's gone back to the religion with a deeper spiritual understanding and he's just not being sort of sucked in by the dogma, but actually understands. I don't know if you've got any impression that he's doing that.
Discussed that recently, and I will send you the discussion that he he started to consider that from a very social point of view, really considering human psychology and the fact that a lot of our predicament is the fact that we have no limits and no discipline, and that you needed to get something to a frame and a sort of a sort of structure to organize everything. And I think it was a very yes, maybe alien cortex type of, I mean, I don't know, we can discuss that with him. It is, I'll send you the link to his last talk about that. It was only a few months ago. So yeah, it is not, no, it wasn't that spiritual, what you call spiritual. I don't even know what that means really now at this stage.
Well, I just mean that like you can read. It's kind of like religion. A little bit like what Hughes said about Göbekli Tepe, where originally there was probably the shamans, and they were their whole thing was co-opted by the priests and turned into a big event kind of thing. But what the wisdom of the shaman would still have been in there somewhere. If it would have been recognizable to somebody who was familiar with it, even though it's been distorted. And I think that's what I mean by returning to religion in that way, that they're just sort of recovering what's in it.
Yeah. So this is very, very serious point. I want to get one thing across to you, and I can't repeat this often enough or loud enough, is don't turn back. see, on this journey, basically to liberation or enlightenment, it's really killing of the ego. It's really giving up to the last straw. It's utter surrender. Now, people get very close to the brink and turn back. So what happens to you if you turn back? If you go, you see, what I suspect is happening with somebody like Paul Kingsnorth is that he gets to the point where he's about to undergo a psychotic break and dissolve his ego. But it's too much for him. He's got too much indoctrination. He's got a family. And so what he does is he turns back at the brink. If you do that, it's an utter disaster. You might as well have fucking shot yourself. Because you become like Lot's wife. You turn into a pillar of salt. See, if you go back to Orthodox religion, if you come close to an epiphany and close to actually defeating your alien cortex, one of its last gambits is to actually plead with you, and then people they don't actually bring down the sword. So you get a chance always at the end. Your alien cortex is kind of like a psychopath, and it's unreformable, it's unredeemable. But in the final moments, when you just understand what it is, when you're just about to slaughter the bull, then it will come up with something that will stay the sword. So people forgive it. They say, "Oh, okay, well, we won't actually go through with killing the beast." The beast will come back much, much stronger.
Yeah.
So if you go back to Orthodox, there's
sorry,
nowhere to go and nothing to do after that. You must not turn back. No, let me finish that. So you mustn't turn back to religion. And there are two versions of religion. It's psychotherapy is one of them, and the other one is religion. They're both doing the same thing. The religion, psychotherapy, they're all fucking religious anyway. They do. It's just a closet religiosity in psychotherapy. It's paper thin. Underneath, they're all evangelicals. So you can write off Western psychology as theology. And so it is actually just a secular cloth over religion. But both of those is like getting to the cross and not basically dying on it. So in other words, it's like getting to the cross and your alien cortex convinces you not to kill it off. So you let the demon live. If you do that, you are finished. You cannot then go and restart the passion play. You are fucked. What you do then is become stuck in religion. You basically will have to, and you it becomes your vehicle for holding things together, for keeping things back, putting things back into an ordered framework. And what you do is, all you can do is start recruiting others. You start becoming a poison in the fucking society, because you start to get a big square beard and these trappings of authority, and you tell the kids about the importance of religion, and then you are stoking the lie. You're stoking the alien cortex. That's how religion gets perpetuated, by those guys that almost come to the epiphany but turn back. You must not turn back. You turn into Lot's wife, the pillar of salt. Yeah.
So it's a question of the fact that we people's entire life conditioning is how to save yourself at various moments of crisis. And in this particular point, this is the critical thing not to do. But you've actually got to abandon your.
If you do it, you have literally sold your soul to the devil. So if you get to the point, like I suspect Paul Kingsnorth has done, is you get to the point where you've actually got all the insight. You know what you have to do, and you have to bring down the axe on the bull, just like Apocalypse Now. You need to slaughter Kurtz, right? That's what all that metaphor is about. Now, if you blink, if you stand over that bull and look in its eyes, you can't find the courage to do it. If you can't actually pull that off, you are doomed. And not only doomed, you become a nexus of cancer that sucks the rest of the society in. You see, the alien cortex once it's just trying to survive. Think of it like a snake. Think of it exactly like a psychopath. This is, you see, our society in general is going through this process. We must cut the head off the psychopaths. Now, a lot of people will say, oh no, let's intervene, we'll be Christians, we'll do the mammalian brain, we'll forgive. Isn't that what truth and reconciliation? No! Truth and reconciliation is the festival that comes after the killing of the beast. You can't let the beast off and then fucking have the feast. That catharsis is when you are basically in the Torabolium. You are basically, the ceremony would be, the bull would be slaughtered above you. The people would be underneath in a pit, and the blood would come down on them. So that was the crucial ritual before you can get to the next stage, which is the feast. So what we the hieros gamos, and in these alchemical terms, it's the hieros gamos, and the meeting of opposites. So what Paul Kingsworth and those guys have done is they've got to the threshold of their wedding, and then they've bucked out. They've done kind of like, you know, the Graduate movie, where on the threshold of the church where they're about to go in and get married, they balk and run. Then they're fugitives forever after that, and no one will touch them again. No one, they're not going to go through that ceremony. You cannot do it. You cannot get back to that threshold once you run away. So it is absolute. I feel rather not talking to Paul, because there's nothing you can say to somebody like that. They lost. They are a walking tragedy, and I mean, you know, and you can't even tell them that, because they barely understand.
That's why I was putting the question to the group a little bit, because I mean, I have messaged him, and I'm trying to get him to talk to us but I wonder, with Mark actually, but I wonder, is it worth it? And we might want to think about it between us, because the way it's turned, I honestly, I've put the link in the comments of the video on YouTube. It starts at 40 minutes when he starts about his vision of Christ and limits and humility, and I started to feel very uncomfortable, because he's a guy I was following for years, and he was a great writer, and he's inspired a lot of people, and honestly, he's a great guy. But I don't know, would it bring anything to us to interact with him at the stage where we are? And
well, so there's, it would be useful to bring him in and talking to him, but don't be surprised if I shock you, because what I generally do to a guy like that is I would eviscerate him. I would humiliate him. I would try and make him angry. I would just pour scorn on him. I would pour my hatred on him, and let him feel like an absolute cunt. And that's basically, it's the only salvation. It's the only way. Somebody that can be jerked out of their torpor. But I would try and shame him into saying that he's a disgusting individual. What? But I mean, I would like to do it if you guys want to see it. but basically, he has given in to the demon. It's about as bad as you can get. He's committed the worst sin you could possibly do.
That's what
it's a tragedy for somebody that has the capacity.
I felt it a tragedy, and I felt that he had turned really to the dark side. And I really felt that. I got really shocked. I think I sent you a message about that, and I thought, oh. You know, and he was a great voice of the
but I would love I would love the opportunity to spit on him. I really would. I mean, I think it would do him good and everybody that saw it. But it might be a bit confusing for people. I haven't watched a few of these things.
But it might not be too late.
I think
he's only been baptized for 4 or 5 months, so might be able to wash away the holy water things. You never know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh to say that you can't ever come back. That's maybe a bit wrong of me. But you need a dramatic shock to actually jerk you out of that. The thing about that turning back is that it's again that thing that I keep on warning you about, is the cop. And at some stage, the whole project that we're doing this will come out. You see, everybody comes into this naively. They don't really realize it's they're being suckered into the death of their alien cortex, and so they come in with all their jolly assumptions and stuff like that. Now, what happens is that at some stage, the collective alien cortex and the individual alien cortex, it realizes, oh shit, I've just been suckered into a slaughterhouse. And then what happens at that point is the cop steps in. Now, the cop is some kind of archetype. It's, we've discussed it before, but you have an internal cop that says, whoa, 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 no, this is getting out of hand. Dudes, this is getting out of control. You see, it happens all the time. Is basically, people will say they will see something and they'll get gaslit. See, as soon as the alien cortex really sees, oh, I whiffed this. This is where I get the chop. It will bring a stop to the proceedings. Somebody will say, stop, guys, stop. Now, the only way out that is to warn you about it, to say, when you feel that cop coming in, you've got to have the strength of Job to say, I really want this ride to stop. And you say, A, you don't have a right to stop it for everybody else, because anybody can call a halt, right? You see, the spell is broken as soon as the cop steps into the room, and anybody could be that cop. So what's bound to happen on this kind of ARG and stuff is you will get to some very freaky places. I'm telling you, there's no ways you go into this stuff without having your fondest delusions about how the world is just so and Michael Shermer-like and predictable and rational and stuff. That's going to be fucking taken away from you. You will see stuff that you will not be able to explain. Your cozy viewpoint about a rational, staid little world that our progressive narrative tells us is the case is not the case. There's spooky shit out there. And so somebody's going to go nuts. You're going to see something goes there, and basically people are going to get gaslit, and somebody's going to go, guys, we've got to stop. And that's a tragedy, because you're just getting to the point where you're really about to make a breakthrough. And that's why the alien cortex calls a stop to it, because it knows that there's about to be a breakthrough. The only way you can break the sound barrier and get through this is if everybody knows, and they know, like, hang on to your hat. Now at the point where you feel most uncomfortable, you feel most crazy, you feel most out of control, and you really want the whole thing to stop, is then that's when you have to steel yourself and say, like, let it go through. Let it go through. Let's see where the fucking thing goes. And if you can do that, you can get airborne. But you see, I wonder if I make myself plain here. It's kind of like a whole lot of pilots or something trying to get airborne with this airship, but they're all scared of heights. So you can get them on you can get them on the plane, you can get them on the airship, because they, okay, but they don't really think it's going to fly. They'll entertain the idea of flight, but the teacher told them flight was impossible and stuff like that. So they don't really believe it, and that they can go through the game of flight. When the plane starts to basically take off, there's a point where they go, fuck, this is not a joke. Not only was I wrong, it's basically, we're going to find out for real whether flight is possible. But they also scared shitless of heights. So then they go, I don't want to do this anymore. Stop. It's like, so they go from like, I don't think flight is possible to, no, I don't want to know. I don't want, let me off. And you see, you can never you will never fly unless you can get over that moment of panic where it's all make or break. And what it relies on is just grace. There's no formula for this. There just has to be a moment of insanity. The only way I can see that you can get through this is if you have somebody that's really wise and knowledgeable, and then maybe can distract people, or nobble the cop, but you have to get through this barrier, which is normally represented by the cop or the turnaround and stuff. And that's where people will panic just before the ship's about to take off. And then they will try and bring it back to ground. So the only way the ship gets off and takes flight is if somebody blinks and something goes wrong at that moment, and suddenly, we're flying, dudes, we're flying. You can never get to that flying moment without getting rid of the cop. And that implies, personally, it implies our whole society, everything. So, but the consequences are extreme. Imagine there is such a thing as magic. Imagine if we're all wrong and Harry Potter actually works and there's such a thing as magic, and we can, wave a magic wand and stop climate change and basically save our species from extinction. Imagine that is the case. Well, it's not going to happen if somebody goes like, no, call a stop to this. Magic's not possible. Call it off. It's like, oh, well, then we really are dead.
There's two things. One is
go on, Gary.
Yeah, is two things from that. Just briefly, were you talking about being hard, and you are really, but I guess it's a matter of seeing that that's necessary, because if you're not, then people will try and squirm out of the way. So you have to take a hard line. If you give people a chance to escape sideways instead of
the alien cortex will survive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
The snake lives. The snake is unreformable.
Yeah,
people don't believe it, right? They think, oh, it could transform into something good. Ken Wilber will come along and say, we'll be transformed into deity and stuff. Say, no, that's the snake talking. So everybody's doing that with our society. They're saying like, well, civilization, there's some good bits. Couldn't we just keep a bit of civilization? Say, look, it's cancer. You got to take out the cancer, the whole cancer. Nobody wants to do that. People say, well, but it's civilization's come up with such awesome stuff. You don't want to lose it all. Yes, you do. Every single bit, last cell of it, because it's cancer. And they're only saying it's the cancer talking. It's the alien cortex saying, yeah, just preserve. Why don't you just keep a little bit of specimen of me in a cupboard somewhere? And you say, oh, what's the harm? Who knows the future? It's like, let's put it in. It's like, it lives. You haven't killed the beast.
Yeah. The other thing is that I think it's important that what you've just been saying for the last few minutes is said more to people, because what seems to me to be happening is that they don't realize there's another. They're returning to familiar options all the time, because it's just never really dawned on them that there's another way, which is just to keep marching ahead. The people come to a crisis and retreat from it. Or like, for instance, in the case of the activism, where they only have they only know that conventional action. They don't have another option. And you come along and say, hey, we can do this little game here, and they don't get it. It's not part of the repertoire. I've never heard of this before. And so it's important. It's a parallel there, not just of activism, but there's this sort of spiritual, personal parallel. Is that if people are actually told that, hey, when you're in this crisis, just keep going through with it. Just let it rip. Walk off your sort of personal cliff kind of thing. Tell them that that's an option that they can have, because they don't know that option's there. Like you did this for me a little while ago, a few meetings ago, and I mentioned to you the epileptic auras that I was, the visual auras that I was getting. And you know, for years they would come on, and it just makes you feel so gross. You really feel bad that, you know, I would just go and lie down and hope that it went away after a while. And now I've realized that I'm actually looking forward to the next one, because the next fucking one, I'm going to stay up, stay moving around. I'm just going to rev this fucker up and let it rip, because I want to see what's going to happen. What happens when it's completely taken over my visual field and I can't see a thing, when I'm vomiting with nausea, when I never feel so bad, because it's probably going to go in that direction, and just keep it going and see what. But you see, this is where you've given me that option. It would never have, I would never have pushed it that far, you know. And now you're saying, hey, when something like this happens, let it go, let it complete its process. Don't retreat from it. And that's probably a very, you know, that's an important thing to be saying to people.
Yeah, throw caution to the wind. You see, it really is a kind of a psychological rebirth. So what we're doing with the cop is the baby's head is just about to come out of the uterus, and then basically we suck it back in. And it's like, and then it turns into an abortion. And then everybody says, oh, you don't want to go through that birthing process. Look what happened to so-and-so. It turned into an abortion. It's because it wasn't completed. You see, it's the same thing with like Peter Hazen, Stephen Hazen and stuff that goes into a cult and stuff. All of these guys are failures. They all turned back at the brink. Then they spend the rest of their lives warning you about cults. They're saying like, cults are a rebirthing process. You don't want to go through a psychological rebirthing process. You say, well, how do you know? And he says, because it turned into an abortion. Look at me. It's like, yes, you didn't go through it. Graduates in the system don't say that about their cults. But since they didn't go through with childbirth, then they think it's dreadful because they made it dreadful. And they can't admit it. So you can't get a Stephen Hazen and say, do you know why cults are bad? Because you made them that way, arsehole. You took a perfectly good birthing obstetrics kind of process and you fucked it up. Now you're walking around the world telling people, don't go near childbirth, don't have sex, it'll lead to childbirth. That's what these guys are doing. So it's terribly bad for the world and for them, and oh, damn it. But yeah, I mean, I think we made the point. But okay, so let me make one more point, and then we'll round it off unless anybody's got any more questions. But now think of it this way. In terms of apocalypse and basically everybody, and doomerism and everybody thinking this is the end of the world, and so it's saying like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it is, then think of this, is if we're all going to die, as all the doomers think, then... then it's, if you go down as a liberal, a progressive, you say, this was all a stinking, rotten game. You go down in this miserable attitude saying, this game is rigged. We could never have survived. We're just stupid bastards. And you go down, Sam Mitchell style, all these guys are just basically sour. And saying, like, they missed the point. If it is the end of us, then think of this. What makes the human experience 200,000 years of our species? What makes it worthwhile? What do we do in the final moments that says, this was fantastic, rather than saying this was miserable? And the thing is the completion of that birthing process. If, as individuals and as a society, in the final moments before the fucking nuclear bombs take us out, if we got to that point of realization, and then that's the meaning of the whole thing. If we can get to the Hieros Gamos, and at the restaurant at the end of the universe, we can celebrate this fantastic play and its completion in the rebirth of us. It's almost better that we all do die off, right? See, if it's nice if we carry on, right? If some people carry on, then we do it again. But I hope you see that it's kind of worthwhile on its own, even if we all go extinct, every last person. I don't think we will. I think some of us will pull through, but But you don't know that for sure. Earth might turn into Venus in some scenarios. So if we're going to Venus, then the thing that makes it wonderful is if we actually reach the goal, the hieros gamos, the completion of ourselves. So our completion is not the transhumanist idea that we uploaded to silicon and we live forever. The completion is we complete ourselves and die in glory. So I hope I've just sparked a little bit of understanding. Did anybody understand what I was saying there? This is the essence of the rightness as well. It's basically, you can complete the play. It's a grand finale. Nobody minds that the play ends. It was such a fucking awesome play. It just couldn't be better. It's the Greek thing. Die now. It's like the play's complete. It's perfect. We've got nothing more to do. It's the end of the road, and we did it well. Now you can die. You can die happy. But you see what a tragedy is if you fuck that up, right? If you fuck up the story, die miserable. Basically, don't get to realization. Then what? It's 200,000 years in the making, and it's a miss. You fall flat on your face. Sin means miss, right? Sin comes from the Greek word for miss. So then we're all sinners. If you want to die a sinner, then fuck it up. Bring in the cop at the final moment. Don't execute the Gorgon. Then we don't have the feast and the reconciliation. Fuck up the play if you want to die miserable. If you want us all to die miserable, do a Paul Kingsnorth. Then fuck up the play. Just when we're about to have the birth, deliver ourselves as a species into this higher cognition, fuck it up. Call it off. Spoil it. Go and do it.
Yeah, it's a bit like the
200,000 years of making and fuck it up. Just flush it down the toilet. Make it into a Christ story or something. Just fuck it up. You know.
Well, I mean, that's what Douglas Adams was saying. You know, that the Earth was just about to produce the answer, and the Vogons came and, you know, got it just before it was about to reach fruition. You know.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Is Douglas Adams? I think the gods took him out early because he's fucking ruined the game. He was about to give the whole fucking plot away, and I think there's a good reason why we have Dickie Dawkins as gay lover, and we lost Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams knew too much. He was like, shut the guy up. He's giving too many spoilers away. So I think that's the reason why something tells me he died early.
Well, yeah.
But Dickie Dawkins is still around.
I suppose for people who can read it, it's all there. It's still all there. You know. Yeah.
But so let's round off. Just as long as anybody realizes the tragedy of our species is not going extinct. The tragedy of our species is going extinct without reaching the goal. And the goal is realization, right? It's not transhumanism. It's empty. It's like religion. If you're going back to religion, is what do? Just more rituals. Go back to the Orthodox Christian church. Then it's smells and bells and smoke and bullshit every Sunday forever. See, and alien cortex wins.
I think I'll still
defeat the alien cortex and have a.
So I'll continue on the invitation. Okay. I'll carry on the invitation.
Okay,
but you see, Hugh enjoys these blood sports.
I'll do my best to
Yeah, but something might come out of it because he's got developed other points on transhumanism and things that are, we'll see. Did you get my message about Darren Allen too? Because he's happy to have a talk with us, but non-recorded. So because some people might not be on the loop, I'll try to get as many. I mean, where would I? For the moment, we were talking about next Saturday at 5:30 with Darren. So I just wanted to tell it to everyone, and I could put it on Reddit, because I knew I could put it on Reddit, even though we're not recording it. Okay? Because he doesn't want it to be recorded.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for today. Sorry I was late. I fell asleep.
Okay. Anybody got anything more? Should we? So, anything more? Should anybody got any more questions? Otherwise, we should round it off. Okay, so let's just pause, especially for this one. Take a deep breath. Just center yourself. Know that you're attending. Know that you're conscious. Make no claim on anything that's been said during this session. Give every last bit of it up. Don't take anything away. Be like a mirror. Reflect everything back and give it up. Let's end with a clean slate. No, not in deficit or in credit. And absolutely neutral with the words Om Paramatma Nama Iti. All right.
Thanks, Hugh.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All the best.
Bye.
Take care.